sustainability. For us as facility managers, it's a big deal because we manage the built environment. And the built environment is a major contributor to sustainability impacts and sustainability's effects on the planet. So in essence, we command the resources for consuming the planet's outputs or resources, and then we command the activities that impact the environment and the planet in a very substantial way. So facility managers need to be conscious of sustainability. That's why we have it as one of the strategic lessons we must learn as facility managers. The second side of this training, second aspect is that of energy management. Energy is, good afternoon, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir. Energy management is one of the most, one of the 8 categories or segments of sustainability for facility managers. And because of that, we need to take it very, very important to learn about energy management. Again, energy has now become one of our resource drains as FM. We invest so much of our revenues, our income, our costs, expenditure on energy management because energy is a key part of the service delivery that we're doing. If you're not energy smart in facility management, you'll be out of business. So some of the technical and commercial skills we need to manage energy in alignment with our sustainability goals, because at the end of the day, the high-level reasoning for this is not just energy efficiency and cost, but on sustainability. Energy efficiency and cost of energy is a subset of this, and that's how we're going to be looking at it. So we're looking at sustainability in facility management, looking at all the angles of sustainability, and focusing extensively on energy management as a key aspect of sustainability. So what is sustainability? The ability to meet the needs of the present, talking about the present population, the present inhabitants of the earth, without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. In essence, we do not want to jeopardize the potential for survival and productivity of future generations because we want to survive. No, we want to have a balanced world where we can survive and those who are coming after us can also survive. That's the goal of sustainability in facility management. Okay, there's a saying that we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. To achieve these goals, we will have to re-examine policies on economic profitability, environmental responsibility, and health and well-being of the people who use the spaces that we manage. So in all, we're going to look at multiple angles, what we call the triple bottom line approach to sustainability and energy efficiency or energy management in this class. Planning is the key to a successful sustainable initiative. Sustainable FM is the process of integrating the people, the place, and the business of an organization in a way that optimizes economic, environmental, and social benefits of sustainability. It's always going to be a balancing act. You want to make profits, but at what expense? Are people going to suffer because you want to make profits? Is the earth, the environment going to suffer because you want to make profits? You want to benefit the earth, but are you going to do that giving back to the earth at the expense of the reason you are in business, which is profitability? Or are you going to give back to the earth at the expense of the health and well-being of the occupants or people that you manage? So sustainability is a big deal. And IFMA has defined 8 categories of sustainability. And the 8 categories include, we'll take them one after the other, so we just get a sense of how they pull together. The first and most important is energy. Energy is derived from the earth. We suck it up from the earth and we consume it. The rate at which energy is taken out of the earth's crust, for example, and consumed should be commensurate, in an ideal situation, should be commensurate with the rate at which the earth produces it to refill itself. That is when we would have said we are sustainable in energy use or energy consumption. But that is not the case. We have most of the energy that has been created and stored by the earth for over thousands of years, 30, 60, 100,000 years, are now being drawn out and consumed in just 300 to 400 years at a rate that is alarming. In fact, there are certain projections that the Earth's crust, the energy held in the Earth's crust in the form of coal, in the form of crude, in the form of gas, in the form of so many other minerals that produce energy, at the rate the Earth is consuming it now, it will be done or used up in barely 50 to 100 years. The implication of that is what took thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years to be built, to be stored, is now being taken out at a rate that the earth cannot by any chance or any means refill itself. So if you think about it in that respect, it means 2-3 generations after us will not even know what crude oil means, will not even know what coal means, will not know what these things mean, because we would have consumed them to the point where they will become insignificantly available, or if available at all. So what are we teaching about energy from the earth? We are teaching, first, understand your energy sources. Know the fossil fuels and the non-fossil fuel that we also call the renewable sources. They are the ones that are taken from the earth, refined, burned for energy, and they are the ones that are produced through organic means and some other inorganic means, but can easily be replicated. For example, fuel can be derived from plants, and these plants can be grown on a year-to-year basis, which means it is renewable. On an annual basis, you can keep getting that energy. Because if you consume the energy supplied through plants from sugar cane and from methane, for example, and other naturally occurring alcohols, you will be able to get them, replenished again within another year cycle and have that harvest and have that energy source again, right? So those are renewables. And then we have some perpetual energy sources, like the solar, sun emits, the winds. These are planetary actions of planetary bodies that remain constant, but for the effect of ozone depletion and global warming, we would have been able to get these perpetual sources on an ongoing, continuous basis, okay? So let's be conscious of these 3 sources. Think about how we can, as much as possible, reduce our use of the energy source that is non-renewable, increase on the renewable sides, and tap into the perpetual sources as much as possible. As technology improves, these sources have become more and more available. As facility managers, it starts with energy efficiency. We really don't want you to start thinking about changing your source of energy until you have refined, fine-tuned your energy consumption so that every kilowatt hour that you produce is used for something that provides value. Wasted energy is still a huge problem for the world today. And so it doesn't matter your source of energy, if a percentage of your energy is still being wasted, then you are not doing enough on the path of sustainability. And again, you should think about your profitability as well and how that wasted energy is a loss or drain on the organization that you serve. I will have more time to talk about it because the whole of this class is going to be all about energy on the other side. But let's look at water. We use water to do all kinds of things, to produce, for our nutrition, for our hygiene, sanitation, for irrigation, to grow crops. We use water even in our energy production, in hydro power plants. We use water for all kinds of processes. We also use energy in the process of generating water, because we also use pumps and other systems, mechanical systems, to handle water, to draw it, to pump it, to distribute it, and to use it. Now, if you use water recklessly as a facility manager, you are not being sustainable. So when somebody asks about sustainability initiative, your mind should not only end up at, energy, we're going to save energy, we're going to take out our fluorescent tubes and so on and so forth. That's not all that your mind should go to. Your mind should also go to water, because every liter of water has a number of watts of energy that is used to produce it. In fact, by certain calculations in studies done here in Nigeria, someone was able to compare a 5 minutes tap flowing freely, your tap or your burst pipe just running water out for 5 minutes, to the equivalent of putting on a light bulb for 14 hours in terms of the value of loss that 5 minutes of gushing of water has cost to the environment. And then the other side to this for us as facility managers is the investment that we put into cleaning up water to make it potable. We have a lot of chemical abuse that goes into water production. We have a lot of energy that is misused and mishandled when we produce water. And so it becomes almost like a double-edged sword. Wasting water is now a way to waste other resources. And that's what we need to be very careful about. So when you dump chemicals into water that you produce, and you try to use chemicals, a lot of chemicals to clean up the water, when you could have used simple mechanical and physical systems like filtration and aeration, which don't require all that chemical in the water, you are also doing the environment a disservice, because those chemicals that go into the water are not helpful for the environment, neither are they helpful for the humans who are going to consume the water, right? And then finally, how do you use water? You have to be able to segregate the need for water into the purpose for that use. So if I'm going to get water to irrigate my crops, my flowers and head, my grass areas and other areas in my site, what quality of water do I need? Do I need it purified to WHO standard for drinking? If I need water for the washing of the site, the paved areas, what quality of water do I need? If I need water to run into the pipes and the toilets and the showers in the facility, what quality of water do I need? Now, you need to be able to understand how costs go into the different levels of water quality, so that you can now prepare the water to the quality that you need. It doesn't help you to dump all those chemicals in water and treat it at a very high cost and energy cost, only to use it to do what? Only to use it to irrigate your flowers, or wash your drainage, or wash the cars, and so on and so forth. So think about it, because water, every liter of water comes with cost. And cleaning and purifying the water also has a cost to it. Many of us just think that because we have the right to put dig a well and we access water, we can just drill water and waste it as we like. Apart from the energy that we use, water being taken out of the earth forms, you know, we know we have the water cycle. Water is evaporated when we use it, and then it comes back, and then the earth drains it. But that cycle is not perfect, which means fresh water can be used up. Water resources is not infinite. There are countries that don't have water, whole countries that don't have fresh water. They have to either depend on seawater being treated and made available to them, or have to depend on water being imported from other countries. Even here in Africa, with all the so-called abundance of rivers and streams, there are cities that still suffer serious water shortages. A couple of years ago, it was Cape Town in South Africa, and we thought, oh, that's so far away from us. Only last year, people living in Enugu here in Nigeria suffered water shortages because the water aquifer is a resource that we all drill into, take it out and waste it at a pace that cannot be refilled, and we are losing aquifer after aquifer of quality fresh water. So let's not think about the fact that whenever we can drill, we get water now, that water will always be there. There have been dry wells in our villages and in our towns. There are areas where you can drill to for 100 feet, 200 feet right now in Lagos, and you will still not get good water. So let's not take it for granted, okay? Materials and resources. The built environment and all materials used within this environment constitutes things that we take out of the earth. Every time we take out resources, every time we take out materials, let's be conscious of how these materials impact the environment. All right? Think about how toxic materials enter the environment. Think about all the unnecessary materials that we have acquired, junk in many instances. Think about things that go into the waste bins. And then workplace management, work processes that have environmental impact. Before COVID, it was almost a hard sell. We used to shout about companies who hold meetings every week and people flying from all over the country to come and attend meetings. People who have to physically do certain things. Paper is being printed at a rate nobody understands. We just print. Almost everybody wanted to print before they can read. It was so bad. Work processes were terrible, but good enough. We have learned some very serious lessons with the lock-ins and lockdowns of COVID. And we have learned that we could get by without all of these processes that we have put in place that were not favorable to the environment. And I think COVID actually made the earth as a whole feel a sense of relief. For the first time, many cities that did not have a clear view of the clouds of the sky were able to see clear view of the sky because all of those frenzy of human workplace management processes and activities that emitted so much, that led to so much pollution, were all reduced for a year or two. And I think we seem to be getting back into it again with a frenzy. Indoor environmental quality. Your internal spaces has a huge impact on the people who live in it. Many of you may not realize, but your internal spaces, no matter how air conditioned it is always worse than the environment outside. Why? Your internal spaces are confined, mostly screened in, and every time you come in, you deposit. You breathe out the moisture from your system, the oxygen in that space is used up, and compare that to the outside environment, even if it is smoky and smog, fog everywhere and dusty, that is moving. There's a huge environment that distributes that, okay? Let's not take for granted that our internal spaces are hurting and harming people. And sustainability includes protecting people in respect of their well-being and their health. And then quality of services, services that are sustainable and minimize the environmental footprint. You want to acquire an item. There is one made in Ghana, one made in Nigeria, or you prefer the one made in China, the one made in America. Every time something travels through 9,000 miles or 15,000 miles, you add to it the fuel of that transportation that brings it to you. They're not teleported here, right? So think about the environmental impact of the things we procure. We buy things and they come with so much packaging. And then we just take out what we need out of it. And the whole package, what do we do with them? Of course, we don't recycle them. Some of us do, but that's not a common practice. We chuck all of them in the bin. And where do they end up? They end up in landfills. And that leads me to the next item in sustainability consideration, waste. You must target zero waste for landfills, which means as FMs, we must begin to step up our recycling game, recycle and compost as much as possible. Every time I see those guys come into my street, open my bin and take out things from it, I'm very, very happy because they are helping the environment. Don't drive them away, support them. If you can do your own segregation and keep things aside and say, look, you're looking for metals, here I put metals for you. You're looking for glass, here I put glass for you. You're looking for tins and cans, here I put cans for you. Please do it. That little effort, that extra effort you are putting in there is doing two things at the same time. It's enriching that young man or woman who is coming to take that item for recycling, is also saving the earth, because when your truck vehicles, your lumber trucks come in, they don't do anything other than mix everything together, go to a landfill and dump them in there. And that's exactly what is killing the earth today. We are taking from the earth at a very fast pace all the good things of the earth, and we are putting together our junk, our waste, and we are dumping it faster than the earth has seen in the last 100 years, 100,000 years. The level of waste right now is tremendous, it's unimaginable. It comes from all of human activities and human processes. And come to think about it, the built environment is accountable, responsible for almost half, more than 40% of energy consumed, especially fossil fuel consumed, drained from the earth. We are responsible for them. We use them in buildings, in all of our built environment spaces where we work, where we live, where we play, where we recreate, and where we worship. We use up all of this energy. And then from our activities, we generate so much waste and then take it back to the earth to poison the earth. Some people don't even feel any sense of guilt when they have fluorescent tubes and lights in their waste bin, when they have batteries, lead batteries in their waste bin, when they have, all kinds of heavy metals and items that are going to poison even our local natural water sources. We poison them and we really don't care. The effort of one person at a time may not seem like a lot, but it becomes a lot when we consider the fact that as facility managers globally, we are responsible for almost half of the issues the earth is facing and almost half of the resources the earth is giving to us in our industry. So we must be responsible. And then finally, site impact. We must gauge the environmental impact and footprint of each building's operational process. Every building in the first place is an intrusion in an ecosystem. Before we all have all of this Lagos that we have today, there were swamps, there were all kinds of animals and reptiles and birds and plants that lived in all of these swamps. We came in, we stripped off all of that surface flora and fauna. We got into the ocean, we took sand and filled up everywhere, burying everything in there and started planting our buildings. Even natural streams that flow within the earth crust, we cut through and put our foundations and raise our building. That is already a displacement. And then what do we do with the rest of the space? Instead of having an approach where you can provide some kind of shelter for some residual animals like birds and squirrels, by having some trees and planters around your facility, and even having some natural ponds, even if it's artificial pond, something that can be a respite for birds and some small animals. What do? We pave the whole spaces. And for some, even after paving as much as possible, we still don't even have areas that are planted with grass in the name of maintenance-free landscaping. We pave the whole place using interlocking tiles everywhere. Everywhere is now concretized. And then we begin to hurt ourselves as people. We begin to hurt ourselves because if you pave an entire street and pave that's why many of the estates in the Lekki Axis are not livable spaces. They pave the streets, they pave every compound, and they have just, a little flowers here and there that they're not even caring for. With that little green cover, with that little plants around us, first, we suffer from lack of oxygen. It's the plants that provide the oxygen. We completely displace them. And then we suffer the heat island effect. The heat island effect is a system of heating up our neighborhoods and giving us such huge discomfort. How does it work? The sun shines very brightly during the day. If the sun shone on a planted area, trees and shrubs, they would absorb the sun and use it to manufacture more green and produce more oxygen for us, making our areas more enjoyable. We'll become healthier. They will also provide shades, and they will keep the soil moist, the ground moist around us. But what do? We've shut all of that off, and we've paved everywhere with stones. So those stones receive all of that heat, absorb them, and hold on to them. At night, what do you get? They begin to emit them slowly. And so, even when you do open your windows because you are hot and you expect fresh air to blow into your house, what do you get? Hot air. Very, very uncomfortable. And we don't even realize how much this heat island effect affects our energy consumption, because your ACs go into overdrive. For those who lock their windows and put on the ACs try to work to give you your 20 degrees Celsius that makes you comfortable, and the ACs work themselves to death while you are consuming so much energy. So we are burning ourselves on both sides when we're not thinking sustainability. FM should get involved from the design stage so we can advise some of the things we can do to keep valuable softscapes. The maintenance cost, that's fine, but the health benefit of those softscapes is far more than the maintenance cost of those areas. The World Health Organization says over 30% of buildings have internal air quality issues. Okay, so our spaces should be made to be healthy. Now, putting all of these 8 sustainability categories together, we have what we take, what we consume as our inputs: energy, water, materials, and resources. We use this to make processes, to provide spaces and services to our building users. So workplace management, indoor environmental quality, and quality of service are the processes for facility managers. We consume the inputs, we use them to deliver the processes. And then we now have the outputs, how we impact the environment, things we give out, things we throw away, things we drop back, waste, keep it down to zero as much as possible, recycle as much as possible, and site impacts. If you've created structures that impact the environment, also create a system for remediating that impact on the environment. So thinking about sustainability should be in this format. You're thinking about it in terms of the triple bottom line of people, planet, and profit. Before now, companies were set up to make profit, and that was everything we talked about. It turned out that companies that were concerned about people, the social, the environment, the planet, were able to make more profits because they were able to connect with their customers as reasonable companies, caring companies, companies you can trust. And if you become a company your customers can trust, they can actually pay a premium for your services and your goods. So a triple bottom line is no longer something that we do as a charity to the people and the environment. No, it is now an edge for companies. It's now a unique selling point for a company to say we are a sustainable company. We use energy efficiently, we use water efficiently, we recycle, we reduce waste, we don't use child labor, we don't harm the environment, we don't use toxic materials, we don't release emissions of toxic materials into the environment. Then you are seen as a responsible, reputable organization. Now, but we want to make profit. So economic consideration, the profit angle, is still the primary consideration. If you're making consideration for the economic aspect of business or organizations, whether profit or not profit, every organization, whether government profit or non-profit, all have an economic consideration. If you think about how that affects the social, you say, is this equitable? If you think about how that affects the environmental or the environment, plants and animals around you, you ask if it is viable. And then the same thing goes for environmental consideration. You cannot, for environmental consideration's sake, for example, begin to lose money and make a loss as a business. In fact, the business will no longer be in existence. Let's alone talk about sustainability, right? So viability is that interface between environment and economy. And the same thing goes between environment and social. Is it bearable? Is it something that is the impact on environmental sustainability on people? Is that something that people can take? Okay, so we want to reduce our energy consumption so that we can be environmentally sustainable. And then because of that, we put lights that are low energy, so low energy that they are so dim that we're not seeing clearly. People's eyes begin to lose focus and begin to be unhealthy because we are trying to save energy. Or people start stumbling on things because we have to use very little light. What are we doing? We are trying to be environmentally conscious at the same time hurting people. So is it bearable? At the end of this analysis, we need to be sure that we have sustainability or sustainable consideration at the middle where all of this meets. So we must ask the question for each of these triple bottom line every time we have an initiative. Don't start something, a project, a new concept, a new idea, an implementation or a plan without using sustainability as the way of testing its feasibility. And quite honestly, the picture is not looking good. The picture is not looking good. You know, some of us don't even understand our weather anymore. Our climate is changing so fast. In fact, sometimes you get to some years and you get a climate that is a weather that is like the one you used to know when you were a child. And for so many years, it has not been so. There's, you know, all kinds of changes. Global warming is a reality, a huge reality. Some people in some cities in this world where we live in can't even breathe the air that's outside. They have to find a way to mask up to get air in. And there have been some campaigns about people living in Port Harcourt suffering huge deposits of soot from all kinds of industrial processes that have clouded them completely, such that you can't breathe safe, you can't feel clean in your white shirt, you cannot even use any of the rainwater that we used to pride ourselves in being able to collect out of sustainability considerations. So we should be very careful of our role in this sustainability issue, because the world is really going from bad to worse. Just don't be a contributor. Instead, be the one that makes the little impact you can. And talking about the triple bottom line, it is equitable when you ask, do the social benefits outweigh the cost of the initiative? It is viable when you ask, can the solution be implemented? Will the benefits likely to be realized outweigh the costs to implement? And it is bearable when you ask, is the initiative that's producing a positive effect from the environmental standpoint having a negative impact on occupant productivity, well-being, or health, or even security? So facility managers can begin to show their contribution to each of these bottom lines by looking at specific ideas and initiatives. On the social measures, you could begin to involve your communities in decision making around you, participate in decisions of your estate and your streets, and don't be aloof. Don't ignore when people are complaining about noise, light, sound, whatever it is that you are emitting, or even your flow from your drainages, how it's affecting the neighborhood. You must have that sense of we all belong to this together, we can protect the community together. And then occupant well-being. Social measures are focused on people. So the people that use your facility, your workers, your visitors, your contractors, your colleagues, and everybody that uses your facility, you need to be concerned about their well-being. Everything about their well-being, especially the indoor environment. Healthier environment. Look around your environment. Do inspections that helps you pick out harmful and dangerous trends that are emanating around you, and make sure the environment is also safe, because it's all about people. Your work is all about keeping people safe, providing a proper a functioning space that helps give grants and secures their well-being. And then the environmental measures, some organizations' ability to avoid harming the environment and preserve scarce resources for future generations. What are some initiatives you can deploy? Manage the consumption of energy. We talked about this. This is huge. Reduce waste, recycle and reuse. Decrease the organization's carbon footprint. This has to do with everything from the fuels you burn, to the transportation everybody run in the organization, to the waste item that goes out when you do your procurement. Everything has impact on your carbon footprint, especially things that have to do with transportation. How far away are the things you are using? Decrease or eliminate hazardous waste. If you can do without hazardous waste, all forms of mercury, lead, zinc, asbestos, and so on and so forth. Even certain oils and glues and paints that you use are supposed to be used carefully and handled in ways that they don't get released into the environment, and create building processes that abolish toxic materials. And then for the economic, lower operating costs, increase asset value. Think return on investment with every project. You want to be able to make profit. That's the whole idea of economic measures. And then higher efficiency, increase the efficiency of your operations. All of those unnecessary motions, unnecessary movements, unnecessary activities and steps and processes, remove them. That's efficiency. Anything that can be done cheaper must be done cheaper, okay? And then think about how to save costs. And quite honestly, we hold a very strong position in the profitability of our organizations. If the organization is making revenue and we're spending, profitability is revenue less expenses, which is profit, right? So if you can manage that angle, that lever of expenses for your organization very well, you are contributing heavily to the profitability of that organization. That's the focus we want you to have. Now, not every organization is ready for sustainability. Some you may have some management who are really not interested in talking sustainability. But it takes a while, it takes time, it takes effort, right? So think about how you can draw sustainability concepts, sustainability ideas from the organization's existing mission, vision, values, rule, strategic objectives, corporate mission, corporate plans, and the rest, right? See how you can make some interpretation of sustainability, because for most businesses, there's always that thinking about sustainability, even though it's not called in that sense, right? And so whatever messages they want to do in any particular area, see how you can keep aligning it with sustainability consideration. Because if you can get a sense of how sustainability is embedded already, you can tap from there and begin to build more policies, processes, procedures, bring up more initiatives that can help push sustainability in the organization. And you could do it if you get a chance to be appointed as somebody who is very passionate about sustainability, to lead sustainability initiative for the organization, that's fine. But in some cases, you have to come in as an insurgent. An insurgent is someone who picks up a notion. Okay, let's get back to this. You start from somewhere when introducing sustainability. If you're working in an organization where they're already being sustainable, they're already measuring, they're already doing some of these things, then super. God bless the soul for having such an opportunity. But if not, decide to start from somewhere. Pick out a few metrics that you can easily identify where the organization is. For example, a metric like energy consumption. Use energy consumption to develop a set of metrics. For example, total kilowatt hour consumed. Total kilowatt hour consumed per employee, for example, or building user. Total kilowatt hour consumed per square meter. Then if you produce water with energy, meter the energy and meter the water you're producing and get number of liters that you produce per kilowatt hour. You can do any of these metrics just in terms of the kilowatt and energy, or you can do them in terms of the cost, or both. In essence, start measuring something. For example, you can start by measuring the weight of your waste. I mean, this is not hard rocket science. There are these bag scales that you can have. You hang it up there, and then your waste is in the bag, and you hang it on it. It tells you how many. You create a waste consignment log, where every time the waste is brought in, it is weighed, and then you know exactly what volume of waste that goes out. And then over time, when you want to begin to initiate, sustainability initiatives, you have baseline data. That's where to start from. Data is where to start from. I see some FMs going into recycling, buying bins, and so on and so forth, getting compactors, and all kinds of equipment. That's not sustainability. You start by knowing where your organization stands at this time, and then you begin to look at the areas where you can save. These are the quick wins, the low-hanging fruit approach to sustainability. And then you can build that up over time. You can build that up over time. Get more people involved, get people to start seeing the results you are getting, start being able to quantify the value of these initiatives. And with time, you become a superstar. The organization will now depend on you as a champion of sustainability in the organization, because you are showing results. Before long, you will become appointed, and then you will now begin to see other people join in the cause of sustainability. So you start it like a cause, you start it like a personal vision. For some organization, the very first day you even start the proposal, start gathering metrics and start showing some of these numbers to management, that's the day they switch on, because many of them have been thinking about it, they don't know how to go about it. But you, as a facility manager, you are already responsible for more than 50% of the organization's sustainability impact and output. So who better to do it? Before your organization gets to that point where you now want to go for a smart building, for energy ratings for your building, you would have started from somewhere and then built your way up to that level of sustainability. And like I said, it's not everywhere that will just hear about sustainability and jump at it, right? There's always that threat of fear at the onset that this is going to cost us money, and this is going to be a value drain for the organization or a waste of productive time. You need to think about that as you communicate the value of sustainability. So getting buy-in is very important. Getting people to little by little, getting connected with it. Don't always give up when it looks as if nobody is listening to sustainability kind of talk from you. Do a lot of research. Research about how to communicate is very powerful in this area, because you could communicate in a way that you'll get a ton of, people just switch off and don't want to talk about it anymore, all right? And then, of course, you can't solve the sustainability issue overnight. So you develop a sustainability hierarchy where you identify some short-term practices, initiatives that will give you quick gains. You have those that are medium-term and those that are long-term. If you start getting results from the short-term initiatives and the quick gains, there will be more support for the medium-term, and there will be budget to support the big project, provided you are able to document. Because you've documented your baseline metrics, you're able to document progress against those baseline metrics. For example, our waste generation has dropped, and these are the ways we have reduced our waste from 30 tons per month to 22 tons per month. These are the steps we took. Just that number, we have reduced our waste from 30 tons to 22 tons, 8 tons of waste saved. That's a huge sustainability credential that you have earned for yourself. We have managed to drop our energy consumption from 43 kilowatts hour per person to 39 kilowatt hours per person, which is about 10% drop in energy consumption by every individual in this organization. You see, when you saw such numbers start flying out, you will see the rate at which the improvement will happen. People are like, oh, so what did I do? I switched off light bulb, right? Okay. The next person say, oh, well, for me, I washed my hands and I didn't leave the tap running. When I saw something broken, I called for maintenance repair so it doesn't waste more energy. I locked the windows when I saw the window was open. People begin to think about what they did to contribute, especially when you make them see what they did to contribute. Oh, people that used to bring all kinds of stuff to the office. Oh, we're no longer bringing this kind of stuff to the office. We're no longer making this kind of waste in the office, and so on and so forth. People are now holding online meetings and virtual meetings, so traveling across town to come and have a meeting. You just keep highlighting how these initiatives are adding value, and being able to measure these levels of value in simple form will help you gain traction as quickly as possible. So let's look at energy consumption. Energy is fossil, renewable, nuclear, or perpetual sources. For us as facility managers, the purpose of energy management is to improve energy performance, not to reduce energy consumption. When facility occupancy is high and operations increase, energy consumption is bound to go up with it, and your CO2 emissions may grow as well. In essence, you grow and your energy consumption grows. If you are running a school and you have 500 children in the school, you want to have 2,000 children and 5,000 people or students in that school at some point, right? As you grow from 500 to 5,000, your energy consumption is supposed to grow, right? So the expectation is that energy consumption is a sign of growth, but there's a caveat. Energy performance has to be perfect for that relationship to be correct. How do we mean? For every child that you're currently serving in the school, how many kilowatt hours are you currently expending? You need to work to improve that performance of energy to the point where it is now optimal. So I've reduced my energy consumption per child from 50 to 25, 50%, 100% reduction. So by the time I'm now increasing from 500 children to 5,000, that 25 will keep dropping because I'm beginning to enjoy scale. That consciousness to measure that energy additional energy per additional unit productivity is what energy performance is. That additional energy used to produce a new unit of productivity should be going down and down as you're scaling. So I'm not trying to say I was using a cumulative 5,000 kilowatt hours before. Now that I'm supposed to be using 4,000 kilowatt hours. Now, that's not what I'm saying, because if I'm supposed to be growing, my production is supposed to be growing, then my energy is supposed to be growing. But then I must ensure that I work tight to keep that energy consumption to the optimal level as a unit of my productivity. Okay, you continue to improve your energy performance as you increase energy consumption. The goal is to improve energy performance, which can be measured in terms of cost, absolute use, or with various energy use ratios, such as kilowatt hours per organizational unit. So kilowatt hours per individual, kilowatt power per square meter, kilowatt power per, per hour, just put any metric that is relevant to your organization. So what are our goals as facility managers? 1, use less per unit of production. 2, use more energy derived from renewable sources. So moving away from fossil fuel is not going to be automatic. So we adopt a blend of some fossil fuel and some renewable sources and some perpetual sources. Use energy in the more socially and environmentally responsible manner, which means use energy to make the best impact on people, not to hurt or harm people or to hurt or harm the environment. Understand your facility's energy consumption and purchasing. How is your energy consumed? Which particular assets or components or departments or units in the facility consumes more or less? How is your tariff billed? Many of us just know that the bill has come, go and pay. No, you need to understand exactly how energy purchasing takes place. Improve the energy efficiency of your core building systems. Your ACs and lights have a lot of work to do and you pay a lot of energy to run them. But if your building fabric is weak and feeble, that your building is built such a way that light cannot come in from a natural source, then you're using a lot more artificial light. And then your building is built in such a way that you are losing a lot of cooling. The windows and the doors are releasing a lot of cooling. Your ACs are going into overdrive and consuming so much energy. You need to be sure of what your building fabric is and what your core building systems, your HVAC system, your electrical system, how they're configured and wired and set up. Because if they are not efficient in themselves, they begin to use energy in their own operation, which is not efficiency. Okay? And then involve occupants in energy initiative. You cannot control energy wastage in facilities on your own. No matter how much technology you put in place, which of course is recommended, so use technology to remove human error, but you need to get people to be connected, people to be switched on. People come into the offices with all kinds of gadgets and you can plug it in anywhere, anyhow. You can't tell them not to. But by the time you begin to talk about energy efficiency, they see the need to work more responsibly. And we're going to talk about some ways that we actually waste energy that we need to control as individuals and as facility managers and occupants of buildings. And then improve the efficiency of your systems. Let me tell you something. If a system is working, let's take a HVAC system or split units, and it's making a noise. That noise is being produced with energy. You may think it's still cooling. Let's not bother. But that extra energy is a waste. If anything in your system is operating in a normal way, maybe it's vibration, maybe it's noise, maybe it's heat. You're just feeling some heat or some warmth somewhere in your wall, in your electrical wiring, and it doesn't cause anything worse than that. It's just warming up and cooling down and warming up and cooling down. It's energy you are wasting. So let's be conscious about the kind of things that we do. We ignore our building systems and assume that it's okay, because it's not getting burnt or not creating necessary havoc. Energy use is often hidden. You can't capture it, you cannot hold it, but every time you save on energy consumption, it's a direct impact on profit of the organization. Sometimes we try to sell energy efficiency system, an energy management system, energy monitoring system, and people look at it as a cost. It's never a cost. It always pays for itself in less than 26 months for most organizations, because you are wasting almost 34 to 46% of your energy consumption right now, even with the so-called low energy bulbs we've all run to go and install in our facilities. So you start your energy efficiency journey with your site audits. Facility lighting, what kind of lights do we have? How are they illuminating the spaces that we have? Do you know how many lumens of lighting brightness of light intensity you are getting? You know how much heat your lights produce after 2-3 hours of working, because every heat produced adds to inefficiency of that light source. Your building envelope, I talked about this a little bit. You know, when the air, the coolness is getting out, you're overworking your system. And then your HVAC system, the filters are clogged and you just keep running them. Every time you have any bottleneck in any mechanical system, it forces that system to draw more air, more energy. It forces it to try to perform. So your maintenance is a very big aspect of this. And then your equipment in your facilities, all those standby everywhere. TVs on standby, printers and copiers on standby, and you hear them doing it every now and then. They come on and off. You know, somebody walks by, something makes a noise. It's on standby. It's always on, always ready. You are running huge losses of energy. Okay, so energy audits is a service that is, you know, you can call for from Max-Migold team, and they'll look all through your facilities. They'll set up meters here and there. Take up temperature and sensors, occupancy, counters, so many things that come into it. So we can generate a baseline energy profile for your facility. We can also teach you how to do this. We also run training specifically for energy efficiency, energy management that we can give to organizations. So you can come in and learn how to manage the energy of your facility. If you don't want to outsource that to consultants, but we want you as a facility manager to have the basic knowledge, ability to put systems and processes in place to curb your energy consumption. And then, whenever you are proposing any retrofit, any upgrades, any capital improvement in your site or facility, try to key into areas where you can harness the benefits of energy efficiency. And it can also help sell those projects to management. You have to know exactly where energy is being consumed across your facility. You cannot just assume that whenever they bring the bill, you go and pay. No. You need to know exactly what the sockets, the lights, the switches, the ACs are consuming. If you don't have a metering system that helps you monitor consumption across, if not every circuit, I recommend every circuit. And we have the Eniscope that will represent the British Energy Saving Technology Eniscope that can meter every socket, switch, or lights in your facility. And it meters them and puts them in a dashboard where it gives you real time, round the clock, how that particular device of energy consumption is running, because you need to know. First, you need to be able to say, is this energy being consumed here producing any value? So you can decide whether that operation or that light's being run or that AC is being run in that large conference hall where one person is sitting down is making any sense. Somebody comes into a large auditorium, a church, for example, and he wants to read his Bible for 3 hours, and he sits down there and you put on those huge central chiller system. Why not just encourage that brother or sister to come into a quiet library or a quiet room where you probably provide, you know, other things that they can use to worship and pray and read in that smaller space. Because you are concerned, it costs money to do everything that we're talking about. Somebody is alone in the office, everybody has closed the office, and the office generator is running, or maybe it's public supply, and we have all these cooling and lighting systems running for that person to do extra work for 3 or 4 hours into the night to 8 or 9 p.m. What is the value of that work compared to all this energy that goes into keeping the space ready? Why don't you create a small space as an after-hours workspace that people can leave their main offices, if there are a few ones left, go in there and do some overtime work. Those are the kind of things that comes to mind. But before you can start taking such decisions, you must first have known the impact of such activities because you metered, you measured, and you have data. Sometimes you install an equipment that is just 3 kilowatt hours in rating, and that equipment should be running at 3 kilowatts. But after some time, 2-3 years down the line, the equipment is now doing 4-5 kilowatt hours, and nobody knows. There's a fault, there's something the equipment is struggling with, there's something that's making it to consume so much more than its rating, than the efficient operation, and we just ignore it. When you could easily make a case because you now have monitored and you have seen that that equipment is now gone up, and you see that extra 2 kilowatt hours run over 24 hours over one month or 2 months is far more than what it will take to fix that defect or even to replace the whole asset in itself. And many people don't realize it. Put an AC on 24 hours every day for 4 months. The money is enough to buy a new AC. So the sub-metering solution we provide is not intrusive, unlike the ordinary meters that you have everywhere where you put in your cables in and cables out to continue. No, the system is the way you're currently wired. You just have CTs like these that are just hung up on the cables, and they monitor more than 8 different things: the current, the voltage, the power factor, the so many things. They measure and meter as current is running through the cables, and you get enough data to take decisions. And this can be available remotely anywhere you are. Now, additional ways to save on energy, especially when you understand that you are on peak load. Those of you who have your own transformers, point load, consumers, heavy energy consumers, you need to start understanding how your peak affects your bill. Why many of us cannot read skipper meters unless the EKDC or IKDC guys come in and read it for us is because it's not a straightforward, bell curve area under the graph kind of measure. So if I do 2 kilowatts, I just have only one AC, nothing else in my house in the morning for 3 hours. That's 2 kilowatts times 3 hours. That's 6 kilowatts that my meter will read, because mine is a straightforward billing. But if you're on the point load or a maximum demand, your billing is not just that 2 kilowatts. There's a factor of the peak that you run on a typical day on your billing. So if you run a 60 kilowatt hour peak, for example, even if you do a 2 kilowatt hour in a particular hour or two, that's not all you're going to be billed for. A factor of that 60 kilowatts will be put into your bill. It's automated. What this means is that you need to work to reduce your peak. And you can use load shedding by shutting off things at the time of peak. For example, you can make people, when they go on break, you put off ACs in the office. It's break time, so go out, for example. There are some companies that put off both ACs and lights and shut down all pumps and everything during that period. So that when you come back to work after break, everything comes back on again. So that peak period where all of this consumption could have become the reason for that extra peak factor becoming so high is dropped because we load shedding. And then load shifting is a secondary approach where you move certain critical activities away. While you shut them down in load shedding, they don't happen again. It's saved permanently. But in load shifting, you take them away from allowing them to happen during your peak. For example, why do you put your water pumps on automatic? When it gets to a certain level, it picks up and starts filling again, right? But when do you think it always gets to that level? At the peak time, when people have filled up the offices and 300 toilets are flushing at the same time, the tank goes down and the pump peaks. Whereas that system could be set up to pump in the morning, fill the tank, and that tank is enough to run us till evening, and then it pumps again in the evening. So instead of using a level of flow switch type control automation, I'll use a timer switch that switches on at 6, runs till it's full, stops, and then switches on again at 8 or 10 in the morning, runs till it's full and stops. That way I take my pump completely away from my peak period. And so many other activities can be moved. Your sewage plants can be moved away from peak period. Your laundry systems programs can be moved away from peak period. So many activities that must happen, but mustn't happen in the peak period can be scheduled off. That's load shifting. And then think about the other aspects of your facilities. The building itself. We talked about the building fabrics and the building systems. And then look at the kind of maintenance activities you have. Poor connections, cables that use teeth to peel and then twist together and then press it and tape it. They warm up and cool down and warm up. Every time cables are warming up and cooling down, you are losing current. Undersized conductors, you also get this effect of warming and cooling with them over time. Leaking insulation, when cables are peeled and are touching each other, and you have all those leakages that takes place and causes shock and the rest, they also cause you energy losses. And then low power factor, and then voltage imbalances between phases in your facility. And then think about the micro aspect too, the smaller things like, let's say your laptop stay connected throughout the day and not shutting down your laptop anytime because you're always just closing it. The next time you open it, you plug it on again and you continue from where you stop. Every time you close it, it's on standby and it runs down for 12, 15 hours and you bring it back on, you continue charging, it waits back and you continue your life. You have wasted so much energy. And this can happen across scale. Imagine banks with hundreds of offices with hundreds of computers all set up and who are idling and leaving them running overnight. The current you'll be wasting is gargantuan. It's just huge. We have to be very careful about them. So it's important that we learn to manage energy from the standpoint of knowledge. Let's know, let's have the data. All of those, we have a meter and we're trying to share bill by apportionment, by counting the load in your house. How do you start counting the things that I put in my house? Whether I use it or not, and telling me that's my percentage of my bill. It happens across our industry. It's a mess. Metering is no longer expensive. Let's engage, let's embrace it. It's no longer expensive. So the whole idea of trying to estimate and apportion and the rest is a mess. It doesn't add any value at all. And you as an FM, whether an industrial site, estate site, commercial, retail, you need to know how to segregate. You need to know how to actually measure and know what is being consumed at different levels. And nowadays, we don't even need to, we don't need to worry again about how people are wired communally. You know, there are people that are wired communally in such a way that the socket in my office is also the same, it's in the same ring with sockets in the next man's office, right? And then the lights in this office is connected to the other office. We need to become smarter now. Get involved in the design process. So you ask simple questions like, can we have every room have its own control to switch off and on? That is the beginning point, because if you can have a control for every room to switch on and off, then you cannot have that point as the point of metering for that room and that space. That's some of the benefits of sub-metering or metering at circuit levels. We make decisions about energy upgrades by comparing energy use in similar facilities. Focus on accountability for building operations on the facility department. Facility chargeback systems. You know, when you try to charge people for what they have actually consumed. You know, chargebacks actually make you more responsible. If you move into a compound where they say when the big one we share it equally, you see how people become reckless in their energy consumption. And so many estates today are losing money because they cannot recover. They don't know where the energy is going to. You know, everybody on the street are paying their bills, they're buying their tokens. It looks as if everything is okay. But what you are getting in the head meter, where you are using to pay to the public utilities, is bringing more kilowatt hours than what those people are accounting for. You don't know how it's happening. There's no magic, there's no miracle. The energy is being consumed. It's either somebody is stealing it or it is being wasted, and you are responsible for that. So being able to meter and measure every point to the last final circuit is key to decision making. All right, that's our lesson for today. There's an assessment. Let's hear your questions and comments.
evening, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Udrak. Go ahead.
So you will not be surprised that I'm talking at this topic.
Oh, move on. Okay, go ahead, move on.
Yeah, I said I'm sure you'll not be surprised I'm talking at this topic because it has been part of what I've been having difficulty with. And with what I've learned today, I will try and put it into practice to make sure that things are documented properly. And what major thing I've learned from this is everything in facility has to be documented, knowing that you don't take anything for granted. Even whatever you have is like when we're talking about assets, I learned that because probably I just buy things and I don't keep. So when we finished that class, I had to quickly get all my receipts and try to open files for everything that has been bought so far into. I didn't even know that lift was an asset. I thought it comes with the building. So that was a mind blowing for me. Excellent. And most of all my projects has lift. So I was very happy to be in this class. And this particular topic today, the energy part, has been where I've been trying to get my heads around it, because my core being architecture, I think this is a more insight, and I'm glad that I'm able to listen, and I hope I'll be able to put everything into practice. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Welcome. Udak.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Paul, and also to
good evening.
Cosmet. Mr. Paul, please, I would like to ask two questions. There was one of your classes which were trying to explain how energy could be conserved. For instance, a company trying to transit into a renewable energy like the solar system, and most of their equipment or systems are bad, which it's not an advisable way, except if they try to put all those assets inside in check. So I don't know, what are basic requirements? What are the basic steps when one is transiting into renewable energy? Because we know that it's always good to move with the world technology. And for like a year now, you can see companies trying to transit into renewable energy. So what are the basic steps so that we could always know when it's best for us to advise on that and also try to introduce that into our personal company in future?
Good. Very good. So the first step is to do an energy audit. An energy audit helps you establish your energy use profile for that building. An energy audit comprises of inspections, observation of the activities in that site, how people, behave and use energy in the site, notes are taken, and metering. We put sensors across various energy consuming devices, and we see how energy flows through those systems over time. So it's a simple, go to your consumer unit where you have your distribution board, right? And you see all those fuses inside there. Each of those fuses, and I think that's something we should all do. Before you even start doing your energy audit, you must label your DBs. Your DBs have fuses in them, that each fuse is like a switch to different energy consuming assets in your facility. You must ensure that they are all labeled in there. Ensure that every DB is labeled, and then as you label all those fuses in the DBs, everything that you are using in that facility is now visible in your distribution board, right? Then when we come to do energy audits, after we've done all the observations and inspections and we've taken all those notes, we will now install sensors on every of those fuses and get a recording of how energy is flown through those things throughout every day for maybe a week or a month. Because sometimes you may think that this 10-ton standalone air conditioning system in the conference room does not come on. But you may be shocked when we give you data to show that security guards go in there to sleep at night and they are burning 10 tons of cooling when you are away, and they put it up before you get there in the morning. You don't know how you are paying for that, and you'll be paying for it for years, right? So that energy audit exposes your energy use profile. So that's the second step. So step one, label all your DBs. Step two, do your energy audit and develop your energy profile, right? And then once your energy audit report is out, invest in some energy efficiency through one, metering at various levels so that you can sustain the gains that your energy audit gave you, right? And two, retrofitting and repairing your assets to reduce their energy consumption. So assets that are already consuming more than their rating, for example, change them out to low energy consuming assets. Assets that are old, replace them. The ones that has bearing and fan problem, repair them. So by the time you have done all this, your energy use will drop. It is at the point you have dropped your energy use and have eradicated as much as the waste as possible, you can now say, this is my energy rating for renewable. Renewable is very expensive. So you cannot produce an energy, renewable energy on energy that is being wasted. I mean, it doesn't make sense buying batteries of 200,000 naira each, putting 500 of them in your site when 40% of your energy is still being wasted. That's a huge waste. You're wasting on both ends. So save the money first, reduce your energy consumption down, and then think of renewable. Don't ever jump to renewable first, okay?
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome. Tosin.
All right, good evening, Mr. Paul. Thank you so much for today's class. It's been a eye-opening for me. I would like to ask on the indoor air quality, when you were talking about the major categories of sustainability. I would like to know if there are ways to measure indoor air quality.
Yes, there are test kits and there are labs for taking air samples to check, right? So for example, if you have a simple CO2 gauge or tester, it will give you the level of carbon dioxide in your air. Every carbon dioxide displaces oxygen, right? So that is one sensor you can have. You could also have dust sensors. There are sensors that can be mounted that can detect the level of dust in the environment, right? And then you also have humidity sensors that senses the level of moisture in your environment. Okay, these are all pollutants. These are things that mess up your spaces internally. So if you take care of humidity, take care of dust, take care of CO2, and then there are also certain other sensors that can detect nitrate, that can detect other emissions, toxic emissions in your spaces. Okay, so there are tools for checking indoor air quality. But the most common tool you can use to know indoor air quality is how people get sick in your facility. People who live and stay in those facilities, they come down with all kinds of sneezing and congestion in the chest. They come down with itching eyes and itching bodies. They come down with rashes. They come down with a lot of things can make you begin to know that indoor is bad. And then when a new person comes to your space and complains, listen to him or her. Usually people who are used to the place, they have become accustomed to that bad indoor air quality. They become used to it. They no longer complaining. Any new person that comes in and says, this place feels musty, this place feels stuffy, this place feels, please listen to them, okay?
All right, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Bamidele.
All right, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for the lecture. I want to say this. Where I work, we produce our own power and water, for instance. And the management is not that so much concerned sustainability and energy management as such. Case whereby all your customers, I mean your colleagues who you work together, they don't even put off their lights. You're going to their various houses after work. So it has been a very point of concern for me as a facility manager. So if in that case, how do you bring in sustainability and energy management where your company produces our gas turbine, we've not been able to use, we are using like 60% of the what we are producing right now. We have a section that we have a utility section that we generate our own water, clean water and water view. So virtually everybody just use water anyhow. They use the power anyhow. We put on most of our fittings, lighting fittings after work and all that. So my own part is what I see as a facility manager that's call for concern is the expenses I incur for changing some of these fittings, because you don't put it off once you're going on. So please, I'm just thinking I was hearing you rolling out different points on sustainability and energy. Like, how do I bring this thing into this kind of situation as a facility manager?
I think you have a very unique case where there's abundance and wastage is the order of the day, right? Now, at least in the area that it affects you, start measuring, gathering data.
All right.
Okay. For example, if a bulb that is supposed to last 2 years does not last 2 years, start finding a mechanism for itemizing and capturing when the bulbs came on and when they went off, right?
Yeah.
Start measuring ACs that stayed on and did not stop. So you have to service AC twice a month instead of once in 2 months, for example, right? And so on and so forth. So you need to have a way to present data to management to say, look, I know we are wasting energy, but we're also wasting maintenance assets and materials, right? So if you don't have a way to capture this data now, you can't speak the language that they will listen to. Okay? Now, even the production you are producing today, if you can prove that you are overproducing and that you either need to scale down your assets production level or sell some of these utilities and resources, management may not. You see, I've seen companies that because of the analysis you did, they got a neighbor, another industry nearby, to start buying power from them because we were able to prove that we have spare capacity, our fuel is being consumed, our efforts are going into producing it and we are wasting it. Why don't we sell? This is how much we can get from selling, to the extent that almost 60% of their fueling costs started coming back from that selling of energy and utilities that they were doing. And the other neighbor was getting it also cheaper compared to the other alternatives they had around them. And there are ways to go around it. But the first thing, the bottom line is you must establish what the problem is using data. Okay?
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome. Blessing.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Thank you for the class. Good evening, everybody. So my question comes from, well, it's supposed to be for an assignment. I know, got the class, I know. So the last class we had, one of our classes on quality management, when we got to about the frequency, histogram and everything, you said there was an assignment on it.
Yes.
Then later on, we got like an email talking about the project topic and details.
Yes.
So I want to know if the assignment and that project topic, they are the same thing, because everybody's confusing it. I myself, I'm being confused.
No.
So we want to know which is which. Oh, they are different assignments. Okay, we didn't get the one for the quality management very well. Okay, I didn't. Okay, I didn't get the quality management assignment correctly. That's just why. So it's confusing me. I was thinking it was the project management and detail and this thing topic.
Let me just quickly clarify. The project docket that contains 6 projects are live projects that you must execute at the end of this program. It is 50% of the entire program for those who are going for the diploma. That docket you see, completing it and fulfilling those assignments in there is 50% of this whole course. This whole 3-month study plus the exam is 50% of this course. So that's a very substantial work that will go into that, because it has to be done in a real building. Okay. Now, the quality class, that one course module, contains an assessment, which is the questions at the back, 10 questions at the back to answer and submit, and now has an assignment. What the assignment simply says is there are certain statistical tools that we included as tools for gathering FM data on the field. Okay, analyzing this data. You have an example of the use of this tool on the slides. Give your own example and simulate data on how that is used. For example, you want to use root cause analysis. Create a problem, whether a real one that you have experienced or a problem that you have not experienced, someone else has experienced it, and put it as the top of the root cause. Why did this problem occur? Put a few reasons. Why did each of these reasons occur? Put a few reasons for each one. Why did each one occur? Up to 5 levels. Then you have given an example of how to use a root cause analysis tool in FM. Then a flow chart. There's an example in the lesson of how to diagnose an electric bulb issue and how to replace electric lamps or bulbs in a flow chart. You can design a process for customer requests. I'll give you an example. Customers have to call the help desk, so and so number, and then the help desk asks the questions and does the analysis. If it is this type of, if it's carpentry, it goes there. If it's electrical, it goes there. You can create a flow chart and a simple example of a simple process from your operations. That's the example of that. So you are going to create something applying each of those statistical tools. I think there are about 5 or 6 in that class, and you are going to submit it as an assignment. Okay?
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Innocent.
Oh, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Thank you for the class. I've really learned a lot. Well, a few questions I have.
Okay.
One has to do with instances where we have people persons creating pollution and is not aware, and we try to bring him to order, to the fact that is actually what is generating is actually an issue for his or her co-users. Mm-hmm. How do we get these persons to actually buy into these ideas, to the fact that he's actually constituting probably a nuisance to his neighbor? That's one. Secondly, sir, you talk about the switches. For instance, our artisans sometimes are one challenge we have, because to an extent, their exposure go a long way now. Okay, for instance, if we are working for a client, and most times our clients tend to believe more in the artisans with respect to certain areas, either because they want to save costs or they feel they rather go with artisans' idea. I don't know. There are instances where you talked about, for instance, the use of the water system, water metering system, where the usual thing that the usual pumping system that the artisans knows or use are usually the type that when installed, when it is in use, the power, the pumping machines peaks automatically, and then it's when it's not in use, the water goes off. But this timer switch you've just talked about now seems to be, I don't know how many of these artisans are aware of it. I'm just hearing for the first time, for instance, where you have to regulate it otherwise as against the usual whatever that is common.
Flow levels, yeah.
The flow,
Yeah.
yes. So with this now, you can control it. Probably you can determine, okay, pump for it to pump in the morning, and then time it to pump later at night. So you avoid this regular use during the peak period.
Yeah.
So I'd like you to
so for the second question, you know, your participants, you don't leave them for all solutions. You're supposed to be the one actually researching more and more ways to get things better. You will discuss with them, you will show them facts and data to bring them on board, but don't 100% depend on artisans for bringing innovative ideas. Okay, so that's something I will have to say. And then for the first question, where somebody is causing pollution and does not agree that he or she is causing pollution, and people are uncomfortable, and there is discomfort, and indoor environment quality is being hampered by this person. I think you start with relationship building. Communicate, become friends with this person, talk with this person, and then get everybody else, to get involved in the discussion. Not everybody will notice when something around them is the problem. Like I said, if a new person does not come in and speak about it, people inside there they will get used to it and not even bother anymore. So there's a lot of communication and consensus building that goes around. People getting switched on. You need to really invest in it, okay?
All right, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Abid.
Good evening, Mr. Yes, I'm there. I'm there.
Okay, go
Good evening, Mr. Paul. Good evening, my colleagues in the class. Yeah, thank you for the wonderful presentation and lecture. Honestly, I truly wish this lecture had come up like a few weeks ago. Why? Because we recently procured a flow switch in my organization. Perhaps if I've known about the timer, I would have made recommendation for that. But that being said, going forward, I'll put it in my tools. But my question is on this energy management. Every month, what we get from IBEDC in my organization is, because we have a skipper meter. So they just come to the organization, they take the readings, and after some days or a week, we get the bills from the meter. So everything is just lumped up together. So, but my own consideration and my point is, this on the organization level, we have like 3 floors. On my own, I'm just being curious. Just want to know, what does each floor consume? The ground floor, the second floor, the first floor, and the basement. So I'm now, from this presentation, I now got to know that yes, you can meter each floor. So my own is the cost aspect of it. What is the cost aspect of this metering system?
Okay, you can actually meter to every level, right? Like I explained in the class, you can meter every socket, every switch, every light, every AC. To that level, you can aggregate the metering of all the things in this room into one meter, right? You can aggregate all the things in this wing of this floor. You can take all this floor. You can take, at any level. That's where things have gotten to right now. So I'll give you a typical, cost outlay. If you took an Eniscope 8, an Eniscope 8 device can meter 24 single phase lines, right? So you put it beside if you have 1 dB in that floor, and you put an endoscope 8 device there, and you use the CTs to connect to all the single phase load lines in that dB, you will be able to capture both the total and individual energy consuming assets in that floor. And you can put 1 endoscope in every dB on each floor, and it will give you exactly what's being consumed across the facility. Now, if I take that endoscope, your facility needs to be scoped. For example, the kind of assets you have. If it's all split unit ACs, for example, and you don't have all those 5 and 10 tons air conditioners, the CTs are going to be those small 30 amp CTs. They are not very expensive. The entire cost of installing the endoscope with 24 CTs connected to it with the cloud, access to the data and the software app that you can use to access your meters on your phones and your laptop will just be about 1.5 million, and it's a one-time cost. Every year you'll be paying for the cloud service of maybe some so that's 25 pounds. If you convert that to Naira, let's say 60,000 a year, right, as the server renewal and maintenance costs on that meter. And that's like installing 24 check meters, right? So if you compare that to check meters that you can buy, and then check meters, you wire in and wire out. These ones are non-intrusive, they're just clamps. You just put a CT around each of the cables and it reads all that data. But if you go and install check meters, you have to wire in and wire out. It's very obstructive, and the process is disruptive on its own. If you take a check meter nowadays, a typical single phase check meter, one that can be rugged enough for you to rely on for a few years, you probably are talking about 35,000 to 40,000 naira for one single phase check meter. Yeah, let alone we are talking about being able to meter 24 of those circuits, and non-intrusively, and 10 years warranty on the hardware and software, fantastic intuitive interface for anything you want to do, whether you want to do chat back, whether you want to do bill sharing, whether you want to do any way you want to understand how your energy is being consumed, both disaggregated and aggregated. You can get it from such data that the endoscope brings. And nowadays, we even have more systems. We have sensors that use LoRa networks. We just install the sensors everywhere, and the data will be downloaded. You know those sensors nowadays that have a small SIM chip. You can put a SIM card into a sensor, put that sensor on every cable around, and the whole data will be gathered into a device, a central device in your facility. That becomes a processing device that captures all the data from all meters. Each of those small sensors I'm talking about becomes a meter in itself, and they are not expensive. So there are ways to give you an excellent energy management system that monitors everything, and the cost will not be up to 20% of your annual energy costs, and those things will run forever, which means the intelligence and the data you gather from them that will guarantee you a saving of 25% or 30% of your energy costs can be saved in 1 to 1.5 years if you invest in them. So it's really what you're worth. Okay. All right, thanks everybody. Have a good evening. See you again on Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Goodbye.
Thank you very much, sir. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Goodbye.
Thank you, sir.